Chapter 89. Listen and repeat. Conversation. What kind of weekend was it? It was a long weekend. What did they do? They drove out to the country. Why did they drive out to the country? Since it was a long weekend, they drove out to the country. I was in the neighborhood. I dropped in. Since I was in the neighborhood, I dropped in. The boss had to leave town. They canceled the meeting. Since the boss had to leave town, they canceled the meeting. He failed maths. He couldn't get into the engineering school. Since he failed maths, he couldn't get into the engineering school. Did you know the way? I didn't know the way. Had you been there before? I'd never been there. Why didn't you know the way? I didn't know the way as I'd never been there. He failed the test. He didn't understand the instructions. He failed the test as he didn't understand the instructions. Where didn't they venture? They didn't venture out onto the open sea. What were they afraid of? They were afraid of unknown dangers. Why didn't they venture out onto the open sea? They didn't venture out onto the open sea, for they were afraid of unknown dangers. They stayed close to the shore. They navigated by the landmarks along the coast. They stayed close to the shore, for they navigated by the landmarks along the coast. He went to the bank because he wanted to open a savings account. He deposited 20 pounds. He was saving money because he wanted to start a business of his own. He planned to save between 10 and 20 pounds a week. As he was a good mechanic, he was making a lot of money. Since he was living at home, he didn't spend much. Notes/note/uwagi. To start a business of his own, to mettersi in proprio, rozpocząć własną działalność. To live at home, to vivere in familia, mieszkać z rodziną. Vocabulary ability. Admission. Anyway, bravely, by, cooperation. Danger. Fear. Fee. For, landmark. Later on, polytechnic, prospectus, scholarship. Shore. There is no slash, not much point, unknown. Verbs and notes. To count up on, to deposit, to drop in on, to feel like, to get in, to get into, to navigate, to venture, to wish. Proper names. Don, Sam. Notes on by. The preposition by, besides its known uses, agent, means, time, can also indicate place. In this case, it expresses nearness, proximity, or passing by, /through, /near, /in front of a place. Example. Don was standing by his brother. We went to London by Paris. Notes on prospectus. The noun prospectus, although it keeps its original Latin form in the singular, takes the normal English plural ending es, prospectuses. This applies to most Latin nouns ending in us that are now part of English. Some scientific terms, however, also admit or prefer the Latin plural I. Dialogue. Mark and Alex are talking about applying for admission to various colleges. Mark. What have you got there? A few college prospectuses. Mark. A few? It looks like about 20. Well, I've been writing for them since last summer. I want to get my application in early. Mark. How many places are you going to apply to? 4, anyway. Maybe a couple more later on. I want to be sure of getting in somewhere. Mark. Come on, with your ability, you won't have any trouble. I wish I could be sure of that. I'd really like to go to Oxford or Cambridge, but they're hard to get into. Mark. What about a scholarship? Oh, I don't think that's possible. Mark. Well, with my marks, I don't have all your problems. If I'm lucky, I'll get into a poly. Maybe you can improve your marks. Yes, maybe, but I'm not counting on it. Which universities are you applying to first? I'm going to try Oxford and Cambridge, even though I don't think I have much of a chance at either one. And then I'm going to try London and Leeds. Mark. London ought to be a sure thing. Well, I don't know about that. Anyway, I'm going to try all of them. Notes. Note 1. The sentence, "I'd really like to go to Oxford or Cambridge, but they're hard to get into," can be translated as "Mi piacerebbe andare a Oxford o a Cambridge, ma è difficile entrarvi." Note that in English, the construction with "to get into" is very common, while the corresponding Italian verb, entrare, is followed by the preposition in. Note 2. In the sentence, "Even though I don't think I have much of a chance," the pronoun much of has a partitive meaning. The expression much of a chance means any chance or some possibility. In a negative sentence, I don't think I have much of a chance means I don't think I have any chance. The term either one in a negative sentence corresponds to the Italian nessuno dei due. Grammar. Clauses of cause or reason. Because. Why didn't you go to school last week? I didn't go to school last week because I was ill.
I did it because they asked me to do it. Since we have no money, we cannot buy it.
As it's raining, you'd better take a taxi. For there is no point in bothering him, for he doesn't know anything about it. In English, clauses of cause or reason express the objective cause or subjective reason for the action of the main clause. They can be introduced by several conjunctions. Because. Besides being used, sometimes alone, to answer why questions, it introduces causal clauses explaining the reason for the main action. The subordinate usually follows the main clause, unless the cause is emphasized. This usage corresponds to the Italian perché. Since. As. These two conjunctions are often interchangeable. They usually introduce a cause that precedes the main clause. As is especially used for obvious or known causes. They correspond to Italian poiché, siccome, visto che, dato che, dal momento che. 4. This conjunction is rarely used in spoken English, but appears in formal or literary contexts. The subordinate clause must follow the main one. Note: in causal clauses, verb tenses depend only on the real time of the action, not on the tense of the main clause. To wish. Sam wishes to be alone. Do you wish me to come with you? I wish they would stop making so much noise. I wish my husband had a better job. I wish someone had let me know, but nobody let me know. Helen wished she had not broken the vase, but she broke the vase. The verb to wish has different constructions depending on whether it expresses a wish likely to come true or one that is unlikely or impossible. Construction 1. To wish someone to do something. Construction 2. To wish plus noun/pronoun plus present conditional, would/could/might. Construction 3. To wish plus noun/pronoun plus simple past. Construction 4. To wish plus noun/pronoun plus past perfect. Note: in English, when the subject of both clauses is the same, the subordinate clause is expressed with an infinitive. When the subject is different, the subordinate is a that clause, though that is usually omitted.